Good afternoon and welcome to the Mayor and City Council 95th special voting session and work session for the Mayor and Council for the City of Hagerstown. May I have a motion for the special session? So introduction of an ordinance.
You don't need to read it, you just need a motion to go into special session.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now I read it.
Yep.
Introduction of an ordinance, amend the city code, chapter 140 in the land management code.
Madam Mayor, I move for the mayor and city council introduce an ordinance to amend the land management code, Article 4, Section H and O by incorporating revisions to the building setback, building height, and parking requirements in the industrial zoning districts.
Second. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of purchase of crime cameras for Fairground Park.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for Mayor and Council's approval of the purchase of 18 crime cameras to include licensing and labor. This will fund the expansion and maintenance of the citywide camera system program at Fairground Park. Spikers is the preferred vendor due to current awarded contract for the city's maintenance service area and prior camera purchases.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And first, we'll go right into the work session. We have, first up, a 5-year strategic plan, and we have Jenny Bakos, Executive Director for Washington County Free Library. I said that wrong, didn't I?
It was fine.
Huh? I did?
You did a great job.
Yeah.
It's Bacus,
Bakos.
but it's not spelled that way, so it's
Bacos.
easy to get it, yeah.
Hi,
I just married
Jenny.
into it, so. Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. So as we prep for the 2025-2030 strategic plan, and visiting governing bodies around the county, your input on libraries in Washington County is crucial, but specifically to the Hagerstown Library. So I brought some literature for you to review. It's a lot, but I wanted you to see kind of what we've been up to, but also give you a copy of our annual report, as well as our strategic plan that we've been using for the past 5 years. And with all of that in mind, I'll give you plenty of time to read through that afterwards, but I wanted to ask just a couple of questions that I can take back to my board when we're working through the strategic plan. So the first question is, what do you love about your libraries and what they have to offer?
You want us to answer?
Yeah, if that's okay.
What do I like about the library?
Mhm.
I love that the library is sit right downtown. I also like that it's, when I look at the library, I know it's a library. And I think that that has to do with the windows and being able to see books. I also appreciate the community aspect of our library downtown.
It goes beyond just being full of books. There's, those that are in need have the ability to get help there. And that is, libraries aren't just your library anymore. There's a lot more to it. And I know that our library and the people within it work very hard to educate themselves on how to be more helpful to their community.
I love that it's an accessible resource to all of our citizens to go in, whether it be the need to use the internet to apply for a job, to find a book, to have a meeting space. It's just a great community resource for everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question I had was, what would you love to see from your library? It's a big question, and you're free to, reach out to me afterwards if something else kind of comes up in your mind, but just kind of off the top of your head.
I visited a library in Hagerstown, Indiana. Now it is much smaller. It's only 1,200 people, but they have a library of things. And I think that that is really cool. So for instance, if someone needs crutches and you can't afford to buy them, you can go check them out at the local library. As well as a ladder, there's wheelchairs, there's all kinds of, there's games, there's just so much. You can check out a crock pot. Like, you can check out the things to learn how to jelly, and it's just, I just thought that was a cool thing that they have in this small little community, that it's called the Library of Things.
So Mayor, I'm very glad you brought that up because we're actually in the process of building the room for the Library of Things at the downtown location. So the next time you get a chance, if you go up to the second floor, Our wonderful team has actually been enclosing a space with plexiglass where people will be able to see into the library thing. So if you have any ideas, the crock pot, the wheelchair, and all that stuff, we're actually trying to work through the liability of being able to hand out, check out like chainsaws and stuff, but we're working through that.
We
But
literally
things
checked
people
out a
need-
stroller.
But people who need things for one time, or they want to try it, or whatever. So we are actually, I'm glad you brought that up, we're working through that and plan on having that live either later this year or early next year.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Your event that you did last year, and then you're planning another one, was just a really great glimpse into, you know, the inside of the library, and what transformation. That was just magical, Jenny.
Yeah,
So,
thank you so
More
much.
of that.
You don't have to be as grand, but, you know, it's such a great space to bring people into, and it's so beautiful. So, getting the community together in a gentle environment is always nice.
Thank you.
I'd like to see the back used for different things. I think that it's, as a poet and as someone who performs all over, I think that the acoustics, I don't sing, but as I'm walking down the steps, then my voice carries down in there. And I've performed in lots of places all over where they kind of use that back area of their building, even museums and kind of
Like an
things to kind of
amphitheater.
do like, yeah, kind of like an ampler type thing. So I think even like an event or something right there in that back part when you come down the steps would be really cool.
Awesome.
Speaking of bringing the community together, a few years ago, and pardon me, I don't remember the title of the event, but the library held a community conversation dinner in the middle of the street.
Is that mile-long table or something?
The longest table.
The long
Which-
table.
I thought had some pretty good results. But I haven't seen it since, and I know COVID came and went. So maybe revisiting something like that.
That's been brought up a few times, and we were looking at doing it this year, but if not this year, we're trying to do it actually next year again.
Super.
Is the bookmobile gonna be in the parade?
I would love for the bookmobile to be in the parade. I'll put that down as something to check into. The new one? The new one?
I used to read a book a day. This is my type of thing. We can sit here and do this all day.
Well, I don't want to take, like I
That's
said, I don't want to
ideas.
take up too much of your time, but I wanted to have the opportunity to, you know, let you see what we're doing. We do send out activity reports to, I'm not sure where they come to in your office. They might come to your office, Scott. Every 2 months, we do an activity report of everything that we're doing.
Yeah, it comes in, I get an email.
An email.
Yeah.
Yeah,
an
to be
email.
shared. So we are trying to keep everybody's up to speed with everything that's going on. We're doing some really great things, so.
Yeah, I'd love to see more of the, I mean, some of these things that you're offering are really awesome. And, you know, I guess you promote it on Facebook, I would
Facebook,
imagine, and.
our website. We too, our marketing team does some stuff on the radio. We take out billboards. I mean, they're everywhere.
And the city has a fairly new calendar through the Public Engagement Office, and it's you fill out the information yourself. I'm not gonna attempt to try to tell you the process, but I would encourage you to chat with Brittany Arzamendi about that. And that gets pushed out to
Yeah, that would be-
more and more people all the time.
Right.
That's an excellent idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Put all your events there.
Do you have something in the library that is similar to the bookstore at the mall? And I ask this because my daughter's really into reading, the one, and I think of that wall on the left side when you go in the bookstore, much like you would think of when you scroll down through Amazon or Netflix, you know, and you say, well, I watched this show, and it recommends these other 10 shows.
Oh.
It'd be cool if you had like the book in this particular genre at the moment is like, this is the one everybody's reading. But if it's not available, these are the other 10
What's
in
hot?
the
We
genre.
do displays like that all the time. Like, we call it the bookstore model. That's what it's called in library land. And we have displays out depending on what's kind of relevant of interest. Book Talk is a big one. I'm not sure if that's what your daughter is getting some of the titles from. But yeah, we do a lot of that stuff too.
Kristen wants to go to stuffed animal sleepaway camp.
Does he? You wanna go to that, Kristen?
I got about 50 I can drop off.
Yeah, do we have to pick them up?
Well, we'll do that together.
They can't, they don't have to go home, but they can't stay there.
Stuffed animal,
Stuffed animal sleepaway camp, I see you're interested.
stuffed animal abandonment.
What?
That's what I want,
Stuffed animal abandonment camp.
yeah.
I like that.
Well, maybe that goes in the
Cannot.
borrow, I
It is,
think,
it's right here.
Yeah.
category.
But I'll definitely keep you all abreast of what's going on with the library of things. That's something we've been trying to work on, getting, passes to museums, passes to state parks, different things that families can check out for no cost, so. We're working through on all of that stuff, so. Well, I appreciate it tremendously. You all know how to reach me, so feel free to take a look through. And
It's exciting.
again, I appreciate all of your time, and I appreciate all of your hard work. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Have a good day, Jenny. I'm gonna hold Jenny here longer so I didn't have to do this. Preliminary agenda review.
Yeah, I mean, everybody should.
Preliminary agenda review for regular session or 96 voting session, June 18, 2024. I'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. We'll have invocation given by any volunteers? All right, Schindler. Pledge to the flag. Announcements, rules of procedure effective December 15, 2020. Use of cell phones during meetings is restricted. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official record. Our meeting schedule for July is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. There's no meeting scheduled. Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, work session at 4 p.m. Tuesday, July 16th, work session at 4 p.m. Tuesday, July 23rd, a regular session at 7 p.m. And Tuesday, July 30th, there's no meeting scheduled. We have some guests that will be here for Historic Preservation Awards. Appointments, Historic District Commission, we have Mr. Michael Gare, term to expire June 30th, 2027. Daniel Matonic, term to expire June 30th, 2027. There's a vote for Historic District, all right. We'll have citizen comments. Public hearings, annexation of 45 West Oak Ridge Drive, Building 2. The review the minutes from April 30th, May 7th, 2024, May 21st, 2024, May 28th, 24. Consent agenda, communications, archive social annual subscription, Civic Plus LLC, Dallas, Texas, $10,671.45. For fire, we have window replacement at Station 3, 100 Eastern Boulevard, Rockwell Construction Company, Inc., Mercersburg, Pennsylvania, $60,740. For human resources, specific stop loss insurance, annual premium, United Healthcare, Chicago, Illinois, $681,281. Workers' compensation, self-insurance, excess liability insurance, Safety National Casualty Corporation, St. Louis, Missouri, $224,985. We have workers' compensation, self-insurance, TPA services, PMA Management Corporation, PMA, Bluebell, Pennsylvania, $28,500. Workers' compensation surety bond, Safety National Corporation, St. Louis, Missouri, $38,100. For information technology, we have IntelliTime Systems, annual support contact. IntelliTime Systems Corporation, Santa Ana, California, $74,737.52. We have annual review for Munis, MUNISDB, support software licensing module, Tyler Technologies, Dallas, Texas, $302,704.59. For utilities, light, emergency repairs for Unit 123, Hagerstown Ford, Hagerstown, Maryland, $13,500.74. For light, we also have emergency purchase, bucket truck rental, Global Rental Company, Inc., Birmingham, Alabama, $14,200. For water, Pepit water heater and expansion tank for emergency fixtures, Beaver Mechanical Contractors, Inc., Hagerstown, Maryland, $41,200. Wastewater, scrubber chemicals, Advanced Oxidation Systems, Source Technologies, Lexington, Kentucky, $28,800. Wastewater, Muffin Monster for Collection System, PS14, Watermark Environmental Systems, Morgantown, Pennsylvania, $33,575. Wastewater, Windows Purchase, Installation, Maintenance, and SCADA Office, SCADA, I think I'm saying that right, Palmer Construction Company, McCollinsburg, Pennsylvania, $41,995. Unfinished business, approval of an ordinance, amendment to City Code Chapter 117, recycling and reuse collection, approval of an ordinance, Land Management Code, LMC, text amendments, new business, introduction of an ordinance, local conversion district and landmark overlay at 132 Bethel Street, American Hall. Introduction of an ordinance, local conversion district overlay, 401 Center Street. Introduction of an ordinance, deed of easement with Hagerstown Housing Authority for a portion of the Cultural Trail. Approval of a resolution, community legacy, strategic demolition grant application. Approval of a resolution, lease agreement for 929 Eldridge Drive. Approval of a resolution, lease agreement for 25 West Church Street. Approval of a resolution, operating agreement with the Hagerstown Amateur Athletic Association, Inc. Approval of guidelines and application form for City Center Vacant Storefront Grant Program. Approval of fiscal year 2025 Invest Hagerstown Grant Program funding levels. Approval of community engagement full-time position. Approval of IBEW Local 305 labor contract. Approval of on-call electrical services contract. Approval of memorandum of understanding with the Narcotics Task Force. City Administrator comments, Mayor and Council comments, and then we are adjourned. All right. Catch my rest. Lease agreement for Hagerstown Fire Department, 25 West Church Street and 929 Eldridge Drive. And we have Chief John DeVacco and his sidekick, Mr. Dan Myers.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, council members, Mr. Administrator. I have Captain Dan Myers with me. Dan has been the project manager for us on our relocation, and really he's our in-house expert when it comes to all things. He's been working on it a long time, so I have him with us. Deputy Chief Hopkins and the Battalion Chief Brian Henry are here also in support if needed. So we have two items for you regarding lease extensions and a lease agreement. The first one is a lease extension for 25 West Church Street, which is our current administrative office. And what we're seeking is approval for extension of lease for the period from September 1, 2024 through December 31, 2024. Our current lease expires on August 31 of this year, and we need the additional time to accommodate build-out of our proposed new facility on Eldridge Drive. The monthly rental for the extension will be $12,000 per month, and we appreciate any assistance in getting that moved quickly. It's a time-sensitive matter for us.
Okay, Bonnie?
I'm good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. The second item is a lease agreement for 929 Eldridge Drive. We're requesting approval for a lease between Eldridge Drive Real Estate LLC and the City of Hagerstown for the use of that facility as the new fire department headquarters and operations for the shift commander, battalion chief, in the fire marshal's office. The current headquarters, which I just mentioned, 25 West Church Street, we're required to vacate that location by the end of the year. The property at 929 Eldridge Drive has been identified as a very suitable property for us to relocate after we've spent quite a bit of time looking at various properties in the city. There's ample warehouse space for storage for multiple items, supply items and equipment, and some of that we currently have at different locations. We'll be able to consolidate those into one operation. It also allows for adequate office space for all operational divisions, the battalion chief, the shift commander, fire marshal's office, and the fire chief's office. The terms of the key terms of the agreement that we're seeking approval for, the lease shall be for a period of 6 years, commencing July 1, 2024, and it will include the ability to extend it for additional 2 years, 1-year periods, at the previous year's minimum annual rent plus a 2% increase throughout the extended term. The monthly installment amount is $16,523. That's $198,276 annually. And there will be a minimum annual rent increase of 3% annually over the previous year's rent. The initial lease will expire on August 31, 2030. The landlord has agreed to manage the build-out requirements of the space provided by the city's architect. Improvements are estimated to come in between $304,700 and $449,080. Improvements of the building are to accommodate the additional living quarters. This will be a 24/7 operation, so we have somebody there around the clock. So we need additional living quarters and office renovations to accommodate fire marshal's office, the office of fire chief, and some training space. The city will reimburse the landlord up to $500,000 for requested improvements, and the landlord has agreed to complete the work needed within 75 days, and that would be October 1, 2024. Our planned move is trying to move by December 1 of 2024 to give us a little bit of buffer before the end of the year. In the event the sale of the property prior to expiration of the lease agreement is requested, the city will be offered the first right of refusal for the purchase of the property. And that's what I have on that. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Had a chance to take a look at the very fine print.
Very fine.
Small printed. So in bullet point 2 says the initial lease will expire August 31st, 2030. If my eyes aren't misleading me, the lease says June 30th, 2030, which I would assume the lease document would prevail, but since you're proposing this in this memo, I just wanted to get a clarification on that.
My understanding, according to the lease, it will begin on July 1, 2024, and end 6 years later,
Which would be,
June 30, 2030.
Yeah.
so that August 31st should be June 30.
Should be June 30th.
Yes, sir, that was it.
Yeah. That's a
Apologize, that was
typo.
changed.
I wasn't sure if you just built in some extra time or
No,
something,
no,
or
it should be June.
or whatever.
Thank you for catching that.
Good catch, Councilman.
Awesome,
Thank you.
awesome
All
job.
right.
Danny did all the work.
Yeah,
Doug's team too.
yeah. It took-
Thank you,
took a
Dan.
bunch of you.
Took a village.
Appreciate it.
Great. Absolutely. Well said.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good luck.
IBEW Local 307 Labor Contract. Kevin DeHaven, Safety and Risk, Human Resources Administrator, and then Nathan Fredinger, Deputy Director for Hagerstown Light Department.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Well, as you know, from executive session last week, we had come to terms with the IBEW group. This is a 3-year contract. It includes a 4% pay increase, and the 2 subsequent years, there will be a wage reopener. That, of course, unless they agree to 2 years next year. Few changes to highlight. There are, they added a $12,000 limitation to sick to vacation conversion leave payouts. Some minor adjustments to meal allowances during emergency events. They switched to a double time rate from time and a half for certain holiday observances. There was an increase to their flame retardant clothing and a few other city policy changes. In addition to some changes in health and welfare, which you go over. Which one was it? So they changes to retiree supplemental insurance and the shared costs that are borne by employees.
Yeah, that was the $50 savings on, what was the, drawing a blank right now, you caught me off guard.
Sorry.
Nathan, thanks a lot. It was a $50 savings on the health savings plan.
From 450 down to 400, right?
350 to 300 maybe?
Or 350 to 300, okay.
So the pay increase equates to about $62,000 in this upcoming budget year. split out $52,000 base salary and $10,000 in fringe benefits. Any specific questions or items to discuss or
I don't.
here to help?
Anybody?
Okay.
Are we all good? Looks like we're good, all right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's yours.
Jeez. All right. I'm almost scared. Easement from Hagerstown Housing Authority. Easement from Hagerstown Housing Authority for cultural trail relocation. This is Jim Bender, our city engineer.
You know we're gonna catch up.
I know.
Go ahead, Kristen.
All right.
You got a whole hour.
So, had brought this to the council back in March, and basically, the purpose of this memo and this agreement is that when we relocated the cultural trail on the south side of Baltimore Street, in order to make it look like the rest of the trail, which is 10 feet wide everywhere else, we wanted to make, we don't have room to go 10 feet wide, but we did have room to go about 8 feet wide. However, that put part of that trail outside of the street right away. And had discussion with the Hagerstown Housing Authority. They had no objection to granting us an easement for that strip that is basically on their property. And really, that's what the purpose of this memo and this agreement is for, to formally accept that easement for the trail.
So we haven't done this work yet.
The work has been done.
So we did the work without an easement.
We did. We did the work with a vote from the Housing Authority to go ahead and enter into this agreement, but no, we did go ahead without having that easement in place.
Well,
This is just a formality at this point.
It is, and I think that the reason I came to that decision to move ahead was we were trying to get as much as possible, get things buttoned up on Baltimore Street with
Safety.
the activities at
More
the
than
stadium. And knowing that, in talking with Sean Griffith, the director of the Housing Authority, they really had no objection to granting that strip. So I felt that, just in the interest of time, that we should go ahead and do it and get it finished.
Well, it seems like we should accept the easement. That's what we're being asked. Yeah.
can't meet us.
I'm not, I don't know what we do at this point.
It's already
I
done.
don't think there is nothing, right. It's
We
done.
accept the easement and make sure that we didn't mess up their space
Tear
or
up
anything we
anything.
don't need to fix. And, yeah.
Okay. Good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That's a deep breath, council member. Deep. Community Legacy Strategic Demolition Fund Grant Applications Proposal, Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD. And hi, Joanna Wu, our planner, but not Kathleen, no? You're not coming?
She's over there.
All right.
Alrighty. So here, I'm here to present grant ideas that staff has proposed for the DHCD grant application. We do this about every year when we come together and think and draft ideas. This year, DHCD has set aside $8 million for community legacy funding and $10 million for strategic demolition funds. And staff has drafted 3 ideas. The first one would be for the community legacy fund, and it would be for supporting middle neighborhood emergency home repair grants. And it would target moderate income households for emergency repairs such as roof repairs or installing an HVAC system. And we're requesting $150,000. The second one is for SCF for strategic demolition, and it is for fire suppression grant. We already have something very similar in the city, and it would just kind of add to it, and we're asking for $150,000. And this is just to help lower the financial burden that comes with installing life-saving fire suppression systems. And this one would be a developer match. And our third one is for CL grants, and it is to help with daycare startup assistance. And this is to provide funding to obtain a daycare certification from the state. And it could also include home improvements and safety installations in the home. From what I've heard, we have a shortage of daycares in the city, and this would help boost having more daycares. And we're asking for $250,000. And if you guys are all comfortable with the three proposals, a resolution will be on your agenda for June 18th, and staff will prepare the grant applications for the submission, which is due on June 26th.
Yeah, that's good.
How did you come up with the grant request amounts?
Just kind of mental math.
Well, personally, if I had to prioritize one based on, prioritize as in dollars and cents, I think the Strategic Demolition Fund would take a higher priority than the other two. Not saying anything negative about any of these, but there has been even long before me, but there's long been conversation about
Getting rid of blight?
the issues surrounding, properties. And maybe it's just because that's so specific, fire suppression systems. Maybe there just isn't any more to be spent, I don't know. But I'm wondering, that's why I asked the question, as far as how those amounts, were to be determined. Is there a possibility of a more broad demolition funding versus just that project?
I'm not sure of that. Someone help. There she is.
We have received 2 other grants for this, and it's been very well received, because when you bring the old buildings up to code, there's the cost of not only putting in the sprinklers, but the part that developers find most objectionable is the extra line that comes from the street to the building, which they think, well, why doesn't the city pay for that? Getting the city water to the building. And so these grants have been very well received as a way to bring down that cost. Developers don't seem to mind as much putting the sprinklers in, it's the extending of the water line to provide the water.
So that's what this is really for?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's probably the number one concern we hear when it comes to the older buildings, is having to sprinkle and the cost to do it.
Because isn't it 50? Isn't it a $50,000 extension? 40,000?
For a fire line?
40,000. Is that right?
The current grant's $40,000, you get fire suppression, the whole plus the sprinklers, this would be $40,000.
Yeah. It's pricey. It's expensive.
I was gonna kind of tag on to what Councilmember Brini says. I assume that number 3 is coming from a need. Do we have like some data, or is there anything that's kind of backing that request for like the daycare, as far as what kind of a shortage we have right now in the city, or?
We'll be working with the Department of Community and Economic Development to get that kind of language in there, but it is something, certainly you hear anecdotally, that there is not enough daycare, particularly like affordable daycare for folks. We have some big commercial operations, but this would help, because it's difficult to get a job if you're spending more money on your daycare than what you might be pulling in with your salary, and then so you have to trade off, well, does this make sense for me? So this would give people more opportunities to then be able to either pursue education or get a job.
So, only number 3 is the implication for this, when it says developer match, do you mean business?
Right.
Where are you at?
The bottom.
Matches are not required, but you're more competitive if you show that you are somehow bringing more investment in.
So,
Leverage.
Yeah.
is this also implying then that this is for strictly a business venture, or is this in the home?
It mentions
For
home
daycare?
But it also says
Either
match.
way.
Yeah.
No, number 3.
Is that the daycare one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
it says
Yeah,
home.
either way, either you would be doing in-home daycare, which you can do in the city up to 8 children, or a commercial enterprise and a commercial property.
So what are the requirements for remaining open? When we put all these stipulations on businesses that we provide funding to for a business, with the indication that you have to be open a certain, I mean, it could be open 3 months and close down, and then, you know, we've just rehabbed somebody's house for 3 months of operation that they closed, and now we're back to the same issue. It just seems odd to me that, one, this is business oriented, and two, I get a little bit cautious when we talk about funding in-home daycares.
I also struggle with that.
So I just think, one, there should be a minimum period they have to remain open. And two, we're not the entity that regulates their operations. And when we're talking about caring for children, again, I just get a little bit cautious funding those types of activities. So that's my concern on number 3.
If I could, I would say that out of 8 grandchildren, 3 of them go to a home daycare, and they have to be licensed through the state, and they have to have specific stipulations in order for a child to be able to go there. And I think that with this type of grant being provided, they would have to still be up to state regulation and that kind of thing. Correct?
Yes. The state allows in-home
Yeah,
daycares
state.
to maybe be up to 12 children. The city's ordinance limits it to 8 because the planning commission was concerned that it might start to feel a little too commercial in the middle of a neighborhood. But yeah, you get licensed by the state. You have to meet all of their requirements. This was hoping to be a way to help reduce the cost to get started, so we can get more of these, so that more people have an opportunity for their
I
kids.
think I would concur with Councilman Alshire's thought about some kind of minimum period
Open, or had to been open.
of
at some point.
operation, you know, kind of like every other grant we talked, you know, when you're talking about, you know, setting the standards and they have to report that and meet that, kind of thing, so.
There would be program guidelines which would,
Yeah.
we would be getting from the
I don't know what
Department
that
of
period
Community
would be. I would assume if you're investing, I don't know what each individual amount would be, but it's $250,000. You know, I would say you're talking about at least a year or something like that.
I think you've got to be open at least a year.
Yeah, I know those are the hardest businesses to start and maintain, which is why so many working families are struggling with getting their kids into daycare. So I agree that it should be a minimum, but I also want us to remember that this is a business, they're just small businesses, and that usually the person who's gone into the business is already struggling to try to stay up to state code and that kind of thing, so. I think we'd like to see a daycare center open downtown, but what we can get is some home daycares.
On number 1, do you define what moderate income household is?
It is a community development thing. But Jill.
So the vision for this is that the Community Development Block Grant Program covers up to 80% AMI, or area median income. And the middle income category would be potentially 80 to 120% of area median income.
So that's the moderate
The
figure?
moderate, right. Because we do intend to continue the emergency home repair program under CDBG. And this would hit the Alice population, and the middle income that also still struggle with these types of issues.
And the state has taken a real hard focus on middle neighborhoods also, so this would look good to them as well.
So for instance, is this, you said the Alice families, like, for instance, if it was an elderly couple that needed window or something emergency, and they only get like their specific amount of money per month, would they be eligible for like the emergency home?
Potentially under this
Either one,
proposed
yeah.
program. And what we do, this time of year, we apply for the state. Once we are notified that our concept was awarded, then we develop guidelines and application form and come back to you for tweaking of the precise guidelines and application. So there is another opportunity, if we're awarded, to further define the program.
Yeah, I just don't want the presumption here to be that certain individuals in specific AMIs are automatically more readily able to address an unforeseen $10,000 HVAC or roof expense, because it's just not the case. I mean, it doesn't take into account that that household might have, you know, the expense of 2 kids in college, or just those types of things that you don't think about. So I just want to make sure that when we're talking about moderate income, that there is, you know, a fairly expansive inclusion of various household income levels.
That's a good point.
Yeah, really good point.
In regard to the match, you want the 3 match? Yeah.
Alright,
Still a lot of money.
what else?
It's a lot of money.
So for the,
Do we, is it a requirement to have that 1 to 3 match? Or was that?
No.
So how was that determined?
The idea that
The
there's,
1 to 3 match?
The 1 to 3 match.
that there is some stake by the homeowner into the repair in addition to the grant, kind of skin in the game that helps with the commitment. That ratio could be adjusted. It also could be eliminated.
So when they apply, will they have to have some type of quote from a contractor saying it's gonna be this amount, or is it work that's already done, they're coming back for reimbursement?
It would be proposed work, so they would show that they have an emergency repair, and then we would work with them, just like we do in the CDVG program, on obtaining contractor estimates, and then them entering into a contract with a contractor, us reimbursing at the end, or paying the contractor directly, depending on how that is structured.
You guys, anything else? So, you want a year, you said? Did you guys say a year? About a year for the daycare for number 3 council members?
I mean, I think that there should be something tied to it. I think a year is a more than reasonable
Must stay open a year, or?
timeframe.
Yep.
And then what was it for the middle near, the number 1?
Come back and look at the match. You wanna look
Yeah,
at the match
I'm just
later?
trying to put in dollars, like how expensive it is for, you know,
Yeah, this goes
middle
in as a
income,
concept,
yeah.
and then you.
I think 10
then you
grand is a
hone
fair
down.
assessment for HVAC or roof.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was-
And it would be helpful to
13.
tell us your priorities, because sometimes the state asks us that.
If these are good, or you wanna switch them around, if these are good priorities for you, or if you wanna switch them
We can
around.
rearrange the priorities.
Councilmember
Councilmember
Brady
Freeney
said
thought 2 should be 1.
2 should be 1.
I agree with that.
You agree?
I agree with that.
Yes.
All right.
So, number 1 will be fire suppression grant, number 2, middle neighborhood, number 3, daycare startup.
It's hard to get
Okay.
daycare. We ain't getting none of them.
Is the community legacy funds, if we were successful with both of those, is that money fungible between programs, or is it fixed for a program?
Yeah, it's,
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks.
I might get Oh, you're still here.
She's here for a while.
That's you. That's you.
What's happening there?
No, I even like went this way this time.
All right.
You're so angry.
I'm over here.
We are at public hearing, follow-up, landmark, overlay for 132 Bethel Street, isn't that West Bethel? American Home, Kathleen Marr, Director of Planning, Code Administration, Joanna Wu, our planner.
Okay. So this one is just a follow-up discussion for the public hearing for American Hall at 132 Bethel. Just to reiterate, this is a double overlay for a local conversion district overlay and a landmark overlay. The applicant is proposing to rehab the Fraternal Lodge and add a museum in it with support areas, and then they're also gonna construct an addition for an ADA accessible bathroom.
That's really cool.
We did not receive any public comments in the 10-day period, and really nothing new. If you are all comfortable, this will be the introduction of an ordinance will be on the agenda for June 18th.
Sounds good.
That's good.
Very good.
Awesome. I like it quick.
I think this is a great type of project to set and showcase, where there's no handout to the city, just let us do this. I love that.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Hi. Public hearing, follow-up, local conversion district overlay for 401 Center Street.
All right.
And again, we have interview, our city planner.
Last one from me.
Oh, my gosh, no, it's not.
This is another follow-up discussion for the local conversion district overlay for 401 Center. This one's located off of South Burhans, and it's kind of in the middle of a residential area as well. And they're proposing any sort of commercial work, and they've outlined 7 different proposals. They aren't sure of what yet, but at the hearing, no one spoke against or for this overlay. And during the comment period, there were no comments submitted. And same as the other one, if you are all comfortable, the ordinance will be introduced at the June 18th regular meeting.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think I said this at the introduction, I'll say it again, probably again, when we, approve it. I am all for, I'm looking at this list of uses, and I am all for incorporating these types of small business, usually neighborhood businesses, neighborhood-owned businesses, in various neighborhoods in the city. I think we should do more of this, because this is what helps build generational wealth. Thank you.
I agree. Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public hearing, follow-up, land management code text amendments. Text amendments, ZT-2024-01, industrial district bulk regulations, and we have Kathy Marr, Director of Planning and Code Administration.
So you just need to pretend that you didn't already introduce this ordinance at the special session this evening. This is the follow-up on what you just already introduced. We had no comments at the hearing, no comments in the 10-day period, and so if you were ready to introduce what you were, that was on the agenda this evening earlier.
Thank you for making. Wow, thank you. I am out of order. Now, Invest Hagerstown fiscal year 2025 funding levels, Chris Simmerling, Economic Development Specialist, and Amanda Gray, Finance Specialist. And it's been done that way before.
I think we're still in afternoon at this point. Here to go ahead and discuss and seek determination for the funding levels for the next fiscal year, FY '25, for the Invest Hagerstown program. In front of you are the charter components and funding levels for each of the proposed 5 programs under the Invest Hagerstown, which includes our city center redevelopment grant, citywide, our rental rehabilitation grant, down payment assistance grant, the homeownership initiative, as well as our commercial sign facade grant. We're looking for mayor and council determination for the funding levels moving forward, so we are ready to go on July 1st. Are there any kind of questions about the charter components in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the homeownership grant program, I'll just start with that one.
Okay.
The eligible homes may not exceed 125% of the average home sale price within city limits. So, why don't we just why do we have that stipulation?
Do you want to take that one?
The basis of the program is really to help buyers get into homes with down payment or closing costs. If you are buying a $500,000 house, do you need possibly, but $7,500? I think what our main goal is for first-time home buyers, vacant properties, renters, not looking to exceed the actual medium of what we're taking it from, because there really isn't, unless we would have an agent give it to us every month on what sales have sold for that month. We're doing off of NARS, National, off of Washington County, which is, when we do the 120%, it's 401,400. We've had one, maybe two, that has exceeded that. One that was a new construction, which is listed in our guidelines that we are not, it has to be an existing property. It's not new construction.
So you're saying 401 is the current number in the city limits?
Correct, 401,400.
Okay. On citywide redevelopment grant program, when it states project ranging from 15,000 to 75,000, is 75,000 the total, meaning the 2 plus the 1? Or
Is the combined project total cost.
Okay. So it's a maximum of 50,000?
It's a maximum grant of $25,000 in that regard, 2-to-1 match. So for every $2 for the developer putting
Right.
in, the city's
I'm
putting
sorry.
1 back.
I got it backwards, okay. And the rental property rehabilitation grant program, is there any necessity at any point to consider a maximum threshold, percentage threshold in that program?
The maximum percentage threshold is also the 2-to-1 match as well.
I'm sorry. I meant comparable to the homeownership grant program.
Like average rent
percentage
price.
threshold.
Is that what
Oh,
you're saying?
average rent price. So as part of our program guidelines and application form, we do ask to see what the current rent is versus what the proposed rent is, as well as the level of renovations that are taking place. To date, we have not had any exorbitant, that's not within market rate, come through our application that we've had to consider. And once again, the main purpose of this program is to increase the quality of life for the tenants that are going to be moving into those spaces. And oftentimes, the properties are in much needed repair. New developer comes in, purchases it from a prior property owner that's held it for years upon years, and is putting the work into it to bring it to a modern standard.
I actually thought on the same wavelength with that. I think it may be worthwhile. I mean, it might not be necessary, but it might be worthwhile to put some verbiage in there like that. Just, we get a lot of, I mean, I certainly hear a lot of, how ridiculous some of the rent is getting. And this would be a way to make sure that we're not incentivizing folks that would take advantage of those that are renting. So,
Lower rent and increasing it
yeah,
drastically.
exactly.
Because they got money to rehab it.
You got it.
Good point.
That is a
And-
good point.
And one thing to also
Yeah,
note is that because these developers are receiving some of these funds, it's able to offset the costs that would otherwise go into increased rent. So that's one thing to keep in mind too. A developer that might not have had access to these grant funding, might have, because the cost of renovations, wrapping that in, charged, we'll say $1,600 versus without the grant fund, or with the grant funding, it being reduced to $1,400. So we want to also keep that in mind with how these grant monies have been able to possibly affect the developers making numbers work in general, bringing some of these units back to life.
It's good.
So, I feel like we're encompassing most property types in the city of Hagerstown, and I think I've said this before, I feel like the one that when you look at this sheet, and maybe you can point to me where it doesn't, But the one that falls through the cracks, at least in my mind, are the city has a lot of doubles, where maybe one person owns one half and the other one's owned by somebody else and it's rented out, right? Or it's vacant for some period of time, and you have increased uncertainty of the attachment that you reside next to. And it doesn't seem to me, and I think I tried to gear our rental property rehab grant toward this, to allow that homeowner the opportunity to buy that other half, you know what I mean, and rent it out, and have some greater input over that. And so when I look at this, it says 2 or more units.
That's only for, sorry, so the 2 or more units is only for projects that are exceeding that $7,500 initial one. So when it comes to the rental property rehabilitation, it's essentially 2 layers. For a single unit renovation, it's cap of $7,500.
Okay.
And we did come back to Mayor and City Council and expanded that to allow for 2 or more units, to have a higher threshold up to 20,000
So
in that case.
if I live at 400 Smith Street and I am attached to 402, you're saying that I can come in and go through the process of acquiring that to make it a rental with the availability of getting 7,500 toward that effort?
Potentially. So the reason I say potentially is that our guidelines do currently stipulate that we don't want to take home ownership from the city away and change a home owner property into a rental property. It was already an existing rental property. We are perfectly fine with this license within the city, that adjacent home ownership can buy that house and then use our grant to upgrade and be their, essentially help their income overall, or bring up the quality of life of that space.
So I want to make sure I understand this.
Okay.
So under which of these 2 programs, as a homeowner, can I buy the other half and become a landlord of it?
The rental property rehabilitation grant, under that one. The homeownership grant initiative one would be more for someone who wants to go into that other half and become the homeowner themselves.
Got you.
It's for primary residence.
Okay,
The 7,500, you have to physically live on the property.
right. But if I
So
want to
even
just buy
if-
the other half, I can get 7,500 through the rental property rehab
Correct.
grant program,
Correct.
even though this says 2 or more units.
That's only for up to the 20,000.
Okay.
So it's the $7,500 would be
Okay.
capped for a single unit.
All right.
Good. You are? Anybody else? We good?
Are we fine with are we fine with the funding levels as is, as presented?
Okay. All right. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you're still here.
Invest Hagerstown fiscal, is that where I'm at? No, I'm sorry, grant guidelines, city center vacant storefront incentive, Chris Silverlink, economic development specialist.
So to kind of piggyback off of the conversation that was earlier in this meeting regarding the Community Legacy Fund, whereas that's going for our coming up application, this was actually money we were actually awarded for a project. For the city center vacant storefront grants, we are working to try and bring some of the vacant storefronts that have been downtown and habitually vacant up to current code. Essentially kind of acting as a carrot to bring these up to current code requirements, so a new business can go in there in accordance with the vacant storefront ordinance as well. Oftentimes, many of the vacant storefronts just don't meet the current code, and new businesses going in are already having their own share of expenses to just start their business up, and not having the additional money to budget to bring another person's property to drywall, for example. Just different things along those lines, drywall, electrical, plumbing, things along those lines. This grant is looking to help offset those costs and be an incentive to the property owners to get those into shovel-ready spaces, so we can also help with themselves or the business owners finding a location, get someone into there and make that storefront reactivated. This grant can be combined with all of our other Invest Hagerstown programs we just spoke about, such as our citywide redevelopment grant, to help with any kind of additional costs that come into the renovation itself or the fit out that will come afterwards. Are there any questions?
Comments, concerns? Y'all good?
I just have one question.
Okay.
So in the one bullet point, it states that applicants may apply for up to $50,000 per storefront location. A building may be eligible for more than one grant if the building contains multiple vacant storefront spaces, each to be occupied by separate businesses.
What's that mean?
So, one example of that will be across the street over on North Potomac Street, 47 to 51 North Potomac. Those are two vacant storefronts that are kind of side by side. So a property owner could go in there and apply for 47 North Potomac as well as 51 North Potomac and receive potentially 2 grants for that fit out for the additional costs, as long as we are having 2 different businesses going to those spaces, and not just one business going to take over all of it.
So in that example, you cite that that particular property appears to have 2 different addresses.
It's 47 through 51 as the official property address.
Right, but
Correct.
there's multiple addresses.
Correct.
I guess my curiosity is, one, if it's a singular address within a single structure, and 2, then that would beg the question, at least in my mind, should there be a limit on that? And I don't know that because I don't know how many buildings downtown could come in and say, I have 6. And then suddenly, like, you're literally giving the largesse of the funding of that pot of money to a single entity.
Well, we will be having each of these applications reviewed by a review committee to ensure that fairness is happening overall. We're going to have criteria going on, just like we do our other programs, for economic impact of the project itself, proximity to Public Square, renovation budget, things along those lines. And in cases where there might be multiple storefronts, making sure that, for example, unit 1, 2, and 3, and the tracking of that accordingly.
Yeah, I would just prefer us to be able to make sure within the parameters of what we're creating that we're spreading the wealth. I just think that there should be a limit, especially if you're eligible as well for other city grant programs. I mean, and like I said, I don't know, maybe there's no building downtown that could fall within those parameters, but I'd hate to not think of that scenario happen, and then, we upset the apple cart, so to speak, on the other end, where that person goes, well, I was hoping to get this. I don't want to be put in that position. I would rather it say, a maximum of 3, I don't know, pick a number. So that at least at this point, we're attempting to spread the wealth as much as possible, especially if you can get up to 50,000 per storefront. That just seems like a lot.
And I definitely
That's my
understand
2
that,
cents.
and our main priority is just to see these vacant storefronts become reactivated once again, especially ones that have not been occupied for 5+ years, and bring them to the current code requirements so that the next business owner can go into those. If you would prefer to see a max on a property, we can definitely have those conversations with our guidelines.
That's my
What you
preference.
asking for?
Just wanted to clarify one thing, as I was proofreading this. The state grant requires it to be within the Sustainable Communities area, which is slightly larger than the CCMU zoning district. So it'll be downtown, but it'll be a little bit outside of downtown, and we'll make that correction before you vote on it. And that's a requirement of the state.
Yeah, that doesn't change my opinion on.
I just wanted to add that clarification before you vote next week.
That maximum figure.
What is it? No, I was just asking, Councilmember.
With the change?
Ashar to.
I just believe that if you can spread the money, further and wider among more buildings, that it's exactly akin to our vision for the Invest Hagerstown, which was if you can sort of lift all the places, at the same time, rather than the all eggs in one basket,
To clarify, are you just talking about putting a max on the amount of storefronts in one property?
No, that you can be eligible for in this program.
So are you capping that on a property owner, or are you capping that on? the house?
Yes, on a single property.
Okay, that was my question, okay.
Yeah, because I don't think I understood what you were trying.
But like I said, I don't know how many buildings that would
Yeah, I was
apply
trying to think
to.
of what buildings that would be.
But-
Hamilton?
The Hamilton already meets current code after the renovations.
Okay.
Only other building that I can think of off the top of my head that has more than one, sorry, more than
Jaguar.
2 staff at once is the Shockey building, maybe.
Why did I say that?
That one has 3, I believe.
Alexander House.
Sorry?
Alexander House?
Those all meet current
Oh,
code
because they
requirements.
were rehab. That's
Correct.
right. That's right.
Alright,
Yeah, you might be right on
I
Shockey.
think there's three said. Yeah, alright. Did you hear that
Okay.
recommend, I mean,
So, maximum amount of 3 storefronts per property, under the guidelines for this. Is that correct?
that's, I think there's 3 people that said yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so council members.
Are there any other comments or questions about the program itself?
Anything else, Joe? All right.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
make that change, bring it back. Thank you.
City administrator.
All right, got a few things. Whoop, holy
All
cow.
right, very white.
Yikes. We'll save that for
Karaoke.
Okay, it's summertime, got a bunch of stuff going on. This Friday, City Park movie is The Sandlot, one of the greatest movies of all time. You're killing me, Smalls. Friday, June 7th at 7 o'clock is when everything starts. There was a great attendance for Wonka, a huge attendance for Wonka last week, so look forward to that Friday night. Kids Train Day is Saturday, the 15th at City Park Train Hub, 11 a.m. to 3. Also at City Park, Fun with Flags is Saturday at City Park Hager House Museum. Learn about flags that have flown over Maryland. That starts at 2 o'clock. Juneteenth celebrations on Saturday at Wheaton Park, hosted by the Dolman Black Heritage Museum, free and open to the public. Music, activities, vendors, and food and beverages. Program runs from noon until 9:30. Again, that's at Wheaton Park this year. Food Truck Friday is back, located off of Jonathan Street behind the county building on Wareham Alley. Stay Rooted empanadas are this week. They are amazing, so if you're around, try to hit that one. Boxcars are in town this week, so encourage anybody that's planning to attend a Boxcars game to come down early to downtown. Check out the restaurants for pregame, and then check them out afterwards for postgame. Lastly, Public Works and Parks and Recreations departments are hiring full-time, part-time, and seasonal positions, is what we were talking about earlier. Also, with the new parking deck opening very soon, there's part-time work available to work the deck, so anyone interested that's over 16, contact the HR department, 301-739-8577, extension 298. And that's it for me, thank you.
Councilmember Chandler.
Just one thing this evening. I just wanted to send out a sincere thanks to City Administrator, Chief of Police, HPD, Economic Development, Community Engagement. It's fantastic to see our city staff come together. This particular week, met with a concerned business owner with concerns. They were wonderful, very thorough, and addressed all the concerns. And hopefully, you know, we see more of that kind of collaboration with citizens and businesses that have concerns. We're here to talk to you and try to address your concerns as best as we can. So I really appreciate that from staff, and want to encourage others that have concerns to reach out. We don't bite, you know. We like to we like to talk. So thank you.
Thank you.
Most of us.
I was about to say, I don't know about that. Councilmember Ashar.
I don't have anything.
Councilwoman Burnett. Councilman Perini.
Nothing this evening.
Councilwoman McIntyre.
So, it's okay. All of you are familiar with the Envy Initiative. I just want to give a public thanks to a couple of individuals. We decided on June 28th to send 10 of the identified basketball players from the Envy Crossroads Basketball League to Shepherd University. We had funding set aside to do this and selected 10 kids to go and to a basketball camp at Shepherd. So on June 28th, I voluntold Tressa Nice Warner that she was going to help me head up this thing. And I think there were 97 emails I counted between that day and the day that they left, probably even more text messages, but between Tressa and Nick Varner, the pal,
Tim
and
Morrow.
Tim Morrow, who I just promise you there will be a documentary written at some point in time. I'm not kidding you, and also Caitlin Nice-Warner too, I'm sorry, Caitlin Myers. They actually went, Tim Morrow actually went and hand-delivered paperwork to these individuals' parents' houses in order for them to quickly get returned so they could get everything done and into the Shepherd coach's hand. And the Shepherd coach is just thrilled with the initiative and has even volunteered to, bring he and maybe even some of his students, all his basketball players, to help with some of the NB kids and help with, the Ruth Ann Monroe Basketball League and, really just make a community and combined effort. So thank you very, very much to all of the people behind the scenes that make this happen, because even if it's just one kid that gets this opportunity that doesn't know, that would not have the opportunity normally, I think that it's amazing. So thank you. Thank you, Tressa.
Y'all done? All right, I wanted to say congratulations to all the young people and their families that received a grant to do the online gaming camp. We had a group of folks from Bolt Management, which actually is out west, donate 15 $1,000 scholarships for online gaming camp. Actually, they donated 10, and we had more kids sign up that came from this community. So congratulations to them, because they'll be able to do summer camp online on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, free of charge. And actually, shout out to the father that sent 3 applications in for his sons, but also said, if there was 3 other kids that needed this, I would pay for it myself for my kids to still attend. I think that's really exciting, and I'm looking for more opportunities for our community for those types of things through iHeart Music as well as EA Sports. I want to say I had a Maryland Affordable Housing Board trustee meeting, and it was really cool because I am the local government representation on there, but I'm also the only one from Western Maryland. And I invited them to come up in September, and that we have a trustee meeting here. And so just thankful for the opportunity to serve on that board, but also to be able to invite them to our community and kind of show them what we have going on. I want to say thank you to the Maryland Fine Arts Museum and Cherish McMillan for the 3rd annual Juneteenth Author Showcase. Plenty of authors, probably about 9 or 10. It was emceed by Erica Bell. About 9 or 10 authors in there, and 8 of them from Frederick, and 1 drove from Harrisburg. Just a really, really, really cool event. And so thank you for the Fine Arts Museum and Cherish for making sure there's some representation when it comes to authors. And I want to say this Saturday from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. is the 3rd annual Black Economic Summit, which will be at the Maryland Theater, downtown Hagerstown. The last time I checked, I believe they're at the 200 tickets, which was their capacity. If you get an opportunity and there's a ticket available, pop in there. It's a really, really, really good and amazing day of learning about financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and just tons of people come from all over that have their businesses. And I want to say that now that the kids are on summer break, let's just have a little bit of patience. Yes, they're in the streets on their bikes. Yes, they're in the parks and then late at night. And I want to say just shout out to all the neighborhood moms, all of the ones that find all the kids in their backyards or on their porches or on their, at their houses, giving them water or feeding them. I think as a community, we should be mindful that this is the time where the kids are off, and this is their community too. And we should be safe and be mindful that there's plenty of things to do. I hear often, there's nothing for the kids to do. And I just had to, within my own daughter, say, there's tons. Go look at the museum website. Oh my goodness, look at the library. It's tons of stuff every single day. So I think the excuse of there's nothing for the kids to do is an excuse at this point. I can remember in '88, when I was 10 years old, that there was a huge epidemic, and it was HIV and AIDS. And I remember being downtown DC, and constantly the adults telling me, be mindful, be careful, don't touch this, don't touch that. But the cool thing about it was we were going to see something great. We were going into a museum. And so Hagerstonians, we have a new baseball stadium. We have a wonderful cultural trail. Our downtown, it looks amazing. Bring your kids outside, walk them through town and give them something to look forward to. And we're not going through anything that we haven't been through before. And with that, have a safe summer, and we are adjourned.
Hello and welcome to Council Wrap. I'm Wes Decker, joined by Chris Simmerling, who is the Economic Development Specialist for the City of Hagerstown. Chris, thanks for being on Council Wrap. It's been a little while since we had a chance to talk.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Lots of exciting things going on in the city, obviously, and there's some money out there for those who perhaps would like to make more exciting things happen in the city of Hagerstown. You had a couple of items that you presented to Mayor and Council during the meeting earlier, and the first of those two was the Invest Hagerstown FY25 funding levels, and there wasn't a whole lot in terms of getting below the surface on that. So I think my strategy in this is to refresh people's memories on what those programs are and how much they are being funded, how much money is available within those grant programs.
Sure. So our Invest Hagerstown program as a whole consists of 5 sub-programs. And for the current FY25 fiscal year, starting July 1, we're looking at a total of $975,000 as a total pot of money that's going to be split between those programs. Out of those different sub-programs, I'll go ahead and start from the reverse about what they are and what they do, really. So the first one is our Commercial Sign and Facade Grant Program. As the name implies, it's for any kind of commercial signage and facade improvements. For this one, it's currently restricted to the Main Street district of our downtown for the mixed-use properties or commercial. So any kind of commercial mixed-use properties for that one. It's up to $7,500 for the facade improvements and up to $1,500 for the signage for the business itself, for example.
Okay.
The next one that we have is called our Hagerstown Home Ownership Initiative, HHI. It's a down payment assistance program. So especially first-time home buyers or someone looking to purchase a home within city limits can utilize those funding in addition to any other down payment assistance programs that might be out there, such as the Hagerstown Home Store or Maryland Mortgage Program, so that they can get into those homes.
Is that restricted to first-time home buyers?
It's not restricted to first-time home buyers, but they do have a priority. First-time home buyers and current renters, as well as vacant properties currently, are viewed as a higher priority than someone who's buying their second or third home, for example.
Gotcha.
And one thing to note as well is that it's for existing buildings, not new builds for new homes as well. The next program that we have under this program is called the Rental Rehabilitation Grant. Specifically, this allows a landlord to bring their rental units up to either current code or more modern amenities, which increases the quality of life for the tenants. Some examples for renovations for that could be your traditional flooring, painting, electrical upgrades, plumbing upgrades, HVAC, sprinkler needing to be added, any kind of general upgrades to the rental units themselves.
Is this the one that during the meeting was talked about as being one that could ultimately help renters in that it would help the landlord defray some of those costs so he wouldn't have to pass them along to the tenants?
Potentially, correct.
Okay.
So just like with any kind of renovation that takes place, those expenses have to be covered in some way.
Sure.
Traditionally, a landlord takes those higher renovation costs and wraps that into the rent moving forward, so recoup their investment.
Right.
This grant allows that to be deferred with part of our city money, so that benefit can then be passed through to the tenant.
Okay. And we have what, 2 other ones?
Yes, our next grant program that we have is called our City-Wide Redevelopment Grant.
Okay.
As the name implies, it's for any property within the city-wide as a whole or corporate boundaries that's either a commercial or mixed-use building. It's great for smaller renovation projects as well as a business tenant fit-out project that might be in mind. Similar to our rental rehab grants, it's going to be hard cost renovations. So any kind of, once again, flooring, painting, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, different things along those lines as examples, building out of shelves, things like that. And then the next big project that we have is called our City Center Redevelopment Grant. As the name implies, it's for the city center, the downtown area of the city. It's what we refer to as our big grant, between $150,000 and $250,000 2-1 match. This is for your bigger projects or bigger mixed-use and commercial projects that might be looking at $450,000 to $750,000 plus in renovation costs. And once again, bringing those commercial spaces to at least a shell condition or tenant fit out with that too, in addition to any kind of upper floors renovations, whether it's office spaces or residential units as well.
What's the response been like to these programs in the time that you've been here?
It's been definitely overwhelming at times, especially when we start talking to investors who have either lived in the city for a while or are looking at the city for the first time. Just being able to understand what programs the city has available, and in general, not seeing those programs anywhere else. Taking a look at the different programs that we as a city offer, we are what looks like either the second or third most competitive when it comes to incentive programs across the state, behind Baltimore currently. So we use these to bring a lot of these either vacant or underutilized properties up to current code, current amenities, so that it enhances the quality of life across the city and that economic viability that we want.
We talked about, up top, just mentioned briefly the funding levels, and the discussion was about, or was going to be about, whether those funding levels should be changed in the opinion of the council members. They made no changes. From your corner, are all of those amounts pretty good in your eyes, or did you feel like perhaps they needed some tweaking?
We believe that the funding amounts in our eyes are pretty spot on based off of the different feedback we have received and applications we have received. For example, our city center grant, we allocate about 2 big projects per fiscal year. Citywide redevelopment grant, we're looking at between 7 to 8 projects fully funded or so. Rental rehabilitation grant, we're looking at about 4 in a fiscal year. And the sign and facade, we're looking at about 5. The biggest one probably is the home ownership one, the down payment assistance, where in the coming fiscal year, we're looking at about 22 homeowners will be able to assist.
Wow, that seems like a pretty good number. What's the awareness been like as it relates to all of this? Because I know you're trying to get this information out all the time so that people are aware, but as you mentioned, these are opportunities that are exclusive to the city of Hagerstown. So in terms of getting the word out, because one thing that I hate in communications is when someone comes back and says, I didn't know about that. Yet we put it out there everywhere we've been able to. So what's your experience been like with that in terms of getting the word out?
So we are hitting all the markets that we can with this. We are promoting our social media, print materials, website, of course, and especially word of mouth. Word of mouth has definitely been one of the best ways that we can get the information out. Especially in the developer community, for example. And we know that there's always going to be gaps. There's always going to be people who aren't aware of our programs and making sure that we identify those gaps so that we can. So for example, we have worked with the different lenders in the area to make sure that they are aware of our programs first so that they can then refer that to their clients at the same time. Once again, makes the numbers work a little bit better. Helps provide the lenders confidence that the grantee will have that when they go for any kind of loans that they have available. And on our side of things, make sure that the word is just being spread further than we can in our own department or across the city itself.
Yeah, really maximizing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. And I think based on the response that you've had the last number of years, there aren't a whole lot of people who don't know at this point, that's for sure. The other item that you discussed before Mayor and Council, the grant guidelines for the city center vacant storefront incentive. And you mentioned, I thought it was an interesting word you used, a carrot. You said, this is a carrot because you've got funding of, $200,000 to be awarded in the state community legacy funding. Pretty big number there. How does this program work? Talk about this one a little bit.
Right. So a lot of the storefronts that we are going to be trying to target with these have been ones that have been habitually vacant. They may not meet current codes in order to have a business to go in there readily at any time. For example, there might need to be a bathroom that needs to be put in. It might be down to the walls, so they need to put in their electrical lines, and need to put in drywall, everything along those lines. So those are initially costs that a property owner may have put off because it's quite expensive to do some of these renovations these days. So we're trying to provide that carrot, per se, to get those renovations taken care of with the grant almost kind of guaranteed after they have the award letter committed to them, for example. so they have that money to come back to them once the project is completed to current code. And then it also allows us to market that property for any new businesses that might be looking and coming in, to know what additional spaces are going to be ready for them to pop up, so they can easily move into those spaces, or just have a nominal amount of tenant fit out that needs to take place.
Yeah, because that's not glamorous work either. I mean, it's not work that just jumps off the page to anyone who might be walking by, because much of it is sort of behind the scenes, but it needs to be done in order to make that property ready for use. So that's money that, as you said, oftentimes, it's like, you know, the owner doesn't want to spend that, because it's like, yeah, there are other better uses for this.
Right.
But if they're able to acquire it in this manner, it makes much more of a difference to them. During the meeting, as I was listening, one of the things that was said is, you know, talking about it being up to $50,000. I mean, is that actually a lot of money by today's standards in terms of doing a lot of this work? I know each of these jobs might be individual and might sit on its own, but overall, I don't know. I mean, $50,000 seems like a big number in certain circles, but when it comes to rehabbing something or doing something like this, that doesn't seem like a lot to me.
And overall, it's going to depend on the property, right?
Okay.
There's going to be some properties that are bigger, some are smaller, some of them that need more work to be done, and some that don't
Sure.
need as much. So that grant amount is going to be scaling accordingly.
Yeah.
So it might be a $20,000 project for one space, or it might be $100,000 for another one. But either way, being able to offset those costs, even by a fraction of amount, helps those numbers work a little bit better once again, and allows these developers, these property owners, to essentially get a rebate to do these projects to code.
And how is eligibility and the awarding of these grants, how is that determined?
So we're going to be having a review committee that's going to be reviewing any application that comes in. We have our program guidelines that Mayor and Council just discussed earlier today. We'll have a couple minor revisions for next week when the official vote happens. But that's going to be what we are going to be basing eligibility off of. For an applicant who's going to be looking to put in for the space itself cannot be currently occupied, obviously, because then it's not vacant in this regards. We're going to be reviewing and prioritizing different applications based off of the code infractions that are going to be getting addressed and remediated, proximity to our downtown public square, the overall economic and viability and enhancement will be contributing to our downtown, and just in general reactivating that space for the next tenant user too, which is in turn going to be increasing foot traffic as a result.
What's the timeline on these programs at this point in terms of applications and things of that nature? You know, to give us a little sense of where we stand there.
So we're going to be bringing this back to Mayor and City Council next week for the regular session for the official vote.
Okay.
That will take place. Once that happens, we'll be posting it likely the same week, so we can start soliciting applications, get our email blasts and everything like that to make sure that property owners and developers are aware that this program exists. And since this funding is provided by Community Legacy, the state money that we apply for, we go off of the timeline that was presented with that one, which, for this one, correct, sorry, I had to just refresh my memory.
That's okay.
Project must be completed no later than May 31st, 2026.
Okay.
So we have some time for this money to be spent and for us to get the awareness out there.
Awesome. If someone wants to get in touch with you in the meantime about either these programs, these items that we discussed, or anything else, give your contact information if you would.
Sure. So they can reach out to our Facebook page directly if that makes it easier for people. City of Hagerstown, Department of Community and Economic Development. They can reach out to my email directly, which is CSIEMERLING@HagerstownMD.org. And they can also reach out to our phone lines as well, whatever is most convenient for them.
Plenty of options.
Yes.
Lots of money out there right now. Now's the time to, you know, get in on the ground floor of all this, get all of the details, and get ready to get your applications in. Chris, thank you very much for your time. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking to you in the future, and thanks to all of you for watching this evening. And for now, that's a wrap. That'll do it for this council wrap. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.